How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here live from 102.3 KRMG in Tulsa, Oklahoma, starting our tour of stations around the country. We'll be keeping this up through next year. I got 250 people showing up in Tulsa, Oklahoma tonight to hang out with me. Looking forward to doing that. We haven't done one of these events on my flagship station. I got 250 people in Tulsa. Surely we can generate a crowd in Atlanta for something at some point. We'll have to plan something. Now, I wasn't going to start here because the Democratic recriminations have begun. But I want to get something out of the way first so we can move on. And I'm not going to take phone calls on the subject because I understand if you're that dogmatically attached to the idea, there's no reason to convince you. But just for those of you who haven't lost your brains in politics yet, there's a chart that's circulating. And it shows such a massive spike in 2020 that Trump voters are using this chart to say, see, this is proof that 2020 was stolen. Look how many more people voted in 2020. It's anomalous compared to every other election. Therefore, this is proof it was stolen. I want you to know that Harris voters have started using the exact same chart to say, see, the Republicans suppressed the vote. They stole this election. So Republicans are using the chart to say 2020 was stolen. Democrats are using the chart to say 2024 was stolen. I just want you to keep in mind a couple of things. Number one, there are still tens of millions of votes left to be counted. It's going to take 2 more weeks to count the total vote. We can call the races in swing states based on the votes outstanding there. But in places like New York and California, Oregon, and elsewhere, there are millions of votes still to be counted. It's not a coincidence whoever wanted to push that chart out pushed it out the day after the election because they wanted you to not see the total vote cast. The total vote counted over the next 2 weeks because that number is going to go up. So they're using a very misleading baseline to do it. Number two, people forget that in 2020, a number of states, and to the extent you want to say this is stolen, this is how it was done, but courts said it was legal, a number of states mailed everybody prepaid postage absentee ballots. So a whole lot of people in 2020 cast ballots by mail who otherwise weren't going to vote. So that spiked the number as well. But that gets me to the third point. For every one of you who's looking at the numbers from 2020 to today saying, look at that spike, that means it must have been stolen. You can go find those voters and ask them. Literally every state makes their voter list public. Every single state makes their voter list public. So if you go pull the list, you do the work, you're the conspiracy theorist, you want to prove it was stolen. So go get the list of 2020, go get the list of 2024, find the people who voted in 2020 who didn't vote in 2024, and go see if they're real people. That's all you have to do. And you'll note that the people who want to say 2020 was stolen, they don't actually want to do that work. They want to do a 3-card Monty shuffling the numbers around on the table instead of actually doing the legwork. They want to believe the conspiracy theory. They need to believe the conspiracy theory. They've defined their entire existence in politics over the last 4 years by the conspiracy theory. But you can actually go get the names. And you can actually go call those people. You can actually do a database. You can pull the names of the people who voted in 2020, and you can see, did they vote in 2024? If not, go find them, knock on their door, and say, are you a real human being? Are you a legal citizen? Did you vote in 2020? Why is your name on the list? It says you voted. They don't want to do that. You know, what's the old, was it Carl Sagan or whatever? Bold claims need bold evidence or what have you, his dismissal of whether or not Jesus is God. A bold claim should have some bold evidence, and people just want to use a statistic. They don't want to believe the stats in polling. They don't want to believe the stats in early voting. They don't want to believe all that stuff, and yet that's what they're doing here is they're believing a statistic on voting, and they don't want to do the legwork of showing it. And here's, again, this is the last thing I'll say on this. The Trump campaign and the stolen election crowd had 4 years to do that, and they didn't. They tried to claim it was ballot harvesting, but someone who harvests ballots breaks the law, but the ballots are still legal. They leave that part out. They claim that people who couldn't vote voted, but they don't have the names. So you can go get the actual voter who voted, but they're not doing that. They're just showing this chart, and they're saying, look, Claire, look at this big blip in 2020. Never mind the anomalies, COVID, absentee ballots mailed to everybody in a lot of states, all that sort of stuff. So go have it, run the numbers. But I will note that all the people who want to throw numbers in your face, they don't want to throw names in your face. They can't throw names in your face because they're not willing to do the legwork to prove their point. They just want to distract you with the 3-card Monty. So now, that being said, let's move on. I wanted to get that out of the way first because I'm getting a whole lot of people sending me that chart. What's your take on this? That's my take. There are names behind those numbers, and no one wants to engage in dealing with the names because they don't want to actually do the work. They just want you to believe something that isn't true. Now, Joe Biden has addressed the United States of America this morning. The recriminations have fully begun on the Democratic side. This is the president of the United States talking to Americans.
The country chooses one or the other. We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree. Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature. I also hope we can lay to rest the question about the integrity of the American electoral system. It is honest, it is fair, and it is transparent. And it can be trusted, win or lose. I also hope we can restore the respect for all our election workers who busted their necks and took risks at the outset. We should thank them. Thank them for staffing voting sites, counting the votes.
One more from Joe Biden.
Look, folks, you all know it in your lives. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. We all get knocked down, but the measure of our character, as my dad would say, is how quickly we get back up. Remember, a defeat does not mean we are defeated. We lost this battle. The America of your dreams is calling for you to get back up. That's the story of America for over 240 years and counting. It's a story for all of us, not just some of us. The American experiment endures. We're going to be okay, but we need to stay engaged. We need to keep going. And above all, we need to keep the faith. I'm so proud to have worked with all of you. I really mean it. I sincerely mean it. God bless you all. God bless America. And may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
There's Joe Biden. The Democrats are furiously throwing him under the bus today, blaming him now. David Plouffe, who was airdropped into the Kamala Harris campaign by Team Obama, actually put out a tweet that they were having to dig out of a very deep hole. Now, I want to just pause there for a moment. He's deleted his Twitter account when people noticed he was actually taking a shot at Joe Biden with his tweet. When the blowback happened forcefully from some Democrats, he deleted his Twitter account, blaming Joe Biden for not stepping aside sooner. But here's the problem. Did you hear what I said he said? I'm not making this up. What he tweeted was, "We had to dig out of a very deep hole." Yesterday, my son asked me a question. Dad, if a plane crashes on the border, right on the border between Mexico and the United States, where do you bury the survivors? I wasn't really paying attention to the question. I said, I have no idea. And he says, where do you bury the survivors? I said, I don't know. He said, Dad, they're survivors. You don't bury survivors. Ha ha, I got you. He's very proud of himself. Didn't even pay attention to it. Same thing, it didn't hit me the first time with David Plouffe. We had to dig out of a very deep hole. Y'all, you don't dig out of holes. You do not dig out of holes. This explains why Kamala Harris lost the election when her top advisor saying we had to dig out of a hole. You don't dig out of a hole, people. You don't dig out of holes. You stop digging. That's what you do. You stop digging. And then you climb, and they couldn't climb out of the hole. They couldn't climb out of the hole because it's, well, Kamala Harris, who was a dimwit, who addressed the nation conceding last night as she comes marching out to music, smiling. Everybody in the audience, Tim Walz was crying. Nancy Pelosi and Donna Brazile were in a heated argument. Tim Walz is over there crying. She's walking out on this stage, and oh my gosh, what a spectacle. Flags behind her. You notice on election night, they sent a man out to tell the crowd to go away after saying they weren't going to take direction from men anymore. Oh yeah, let's fast forward here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That's the most cheering she's gotten this entire campaign.
Let me say, and I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting.
Now, the tone of her speech and the way she came out made it seem very, very clear to me that she wants to be the leader of La Resistance this time.
A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny. And anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States. And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
I really think that she wants to be the leader of the opposition, and the recriminations game has begun. And I don't think Kamala Harris is going to have that opportunity. They are coming fast and furious to throw her under the bus. The Biden team racing to sabotage her as she races to sabotage Biden. When we come back, it is getting good. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson broadcasting from my affiliate KRMG AM 740 FM 102.3 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, hanging out with their listeners today. Looking forward to doing more of these around the country in the coming year. I'm ready for a break, but I won't get one. I'll be actually doing a listener event in Las Vegas at the end of next week. And then, well, it's slow down time for Thanksgiving finally. We'll pick them up in the new year. Y'all, be patient with me if you're on the phones. I want to get to your phone calls. But I was hesitant to do this. But I really genuinely, in every fiber of my being, believe that the Republican Party does better when the Democratic Party doesn't lose its mind. Both parties depend on the other party being healthy. They keep us on our A game. We can get lazy. The history of decline of parties in states is that when one party gets too much of a monopoly and is not challenged by the other party, it begins to collapse. We're seeing it happen in California. It happened to the Democrats in Florida, and the Republicans run the risk of collapsing. So I want to give Democrats some advice. It's an actual easy fix to their problems. If they do one tweak to the Democratic Party, they're going to become competitive again. And I don't want you guys on my side on the right to hate me for giving advice to the Democrats. Because one, I don't think they'll actually take it. But two, you know I'm right. Don't doubt me on this. You know I'm right. Democrats, I have one easy suggestion. This is the low-hanging fruit. And if you take advantage of this and do this one thing, that's all I ask, one thing, you will see amazing overnight improvements in the Democratic Party. You will be competitive and ready by the midterms to take on the Republicans. You just got to do one thing, and that's this. Forgive me, Republicans, for giving away the secret. Democrats, fire and ban from politics every single campaign operative on your side who has ever used or written the word Latinx and not meant it ironically. Get rid of them. You'll start fixing yourselves overnight. Between bank collapses, with more teetering on the brink, regulators feel like they're fighting an unwinnable war. The 22-year high interest rates have come down some, but mortgage rates are now going up. Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years, and I know they've been warning people about a secret war on cash for some time. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned assets, well, get a free report from Swiss America on the secret war on cash. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. They can educate you on protecting your assets in this report. And, by the way, it takes less than 15 minutes to read it. I have read the report. What I didn't realize was how the government goes through so much effort to try to track everything we spend. And it includes digital currency, by the way. If you want their free report, just call or text my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. All you have to do is reach out to Swiss America, text my name, 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you'd like to be on the phones, I'm happy to take your phone calls. The Democratic Party is melting down today. The blame game has started in full. They gave it less than 24 hours after the election, and it started. The stories are circulating today. The recriminations are fantastic. And I need to tell you something. It has been leaked out that one of the people who advised the Democratic Party to abandon the trans issue and to abandon an open border scheme was none other than William Jefferson Clinton, the president of the United States, the former president. He told the Harris campaign, you got to ditch the trans stuff. Boys shouldn't be in girl sports. And he told them, you got to walk away from the border. You got to be tough on illegal immigration. I'm told reliably, William Jefferson Clinton told them they shouldn't be afraid of using the phrase illegal aliens. And the Harris campaign objected. Now, for perspective, in 2016, Bill Clinton told Hillary Clinton's campaign, you got to focus on the working class, you got to go to Erie, Pennsylvania, you got to go to Milwaukee, and you got to go to Detroit. And Robbie Mook, the campaign manager, who was a very gay dude in Brooklyn, insisted they didn't need those kinds of voters. They were building a new coalition. Well, guess what? Those voters went with Donald Trump. They wanted to be loved. Donald Trump loved them. Here's the thing. You know what? This is Democrats say this all the time. In fact, let me give you the Stephanie Rule. Stephanie Rule, y'all should okay, so Stephanie Rule's last name is Ruhle. Ruhle. You should Google Stephanie Rule and Under Armour. Because Stephanie Rule was involved as a business reporter, involved in questionable journalistic practices with her friend, the former CEO of Under Armour. I want you to listen to Stephanie Rule on MSNBC.
We have now let misinformation become the accepted information. It has washed over us. Elon Musk, he buys Twitter, and then he uses it almost exclusively to be a propaganda machine, and we've accepted it. We've accepted a narrative that despite an actually great economic recovery, the vibes don't feel good. So we want to reject it and get something else. And the person we are now betting on to change all of it is Donald Trump, a man who did two almost impossible things. He won the American presidency twice, and he drove a casino into the ground. What will the future hold now that America has just decided that we're going to F around and find out?
The arrogance of Stephanie Rule, a progressive, neurotic female on MSNBC who's very well paid and doesn't feel the pain of Americans, to tell them that actually the economy is really good. Actually, the economy is really good, guys. It's your own bigotry that makes you think it's not good. So you heard this clip from Stephanie Rule. Now, this is a compendium of Fox News out in the field during the course of the election, talking to undecided voters in swing states.
Inflation is really hurting with the way prices are just going up. Gasoline, food, everything. It's just hard due to the increases in the costs of everything.
And who do you blame for that inflation problem?
It's the Democrats.
What's the most important issue right now for you in the country?
The economy and the border.
The border is a big problem.
Oh, yes, the border is certainly a big problem, the illegal immigration.
The rise in crime, is going on all over the country, especially in these big cities. We planned our retirement about 4 years ago when Trump was still in office, and now the last 2 years, and I've retired, and now the inflation has gone bad.
All these illegal immigrants coming over the border, tens of thousands of them. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for myself, other small business owners.
I would say inflation. It's at the grocery store every time you go to buy food, bread, eggs, milk, everything has gone up so high. So I think that hits us personally.
I'm so anxious I go to every grocery store in anxiety because all the prices are like 20 to 30% higher.
I would say safety. Securing our borders is very important. Criminals are not having to serve a sentence. So I would say safety.
What's the number one issue for you?
Definitely the economy and immigration.
Two companies that I work for, great companies, pretty much went out of business, and due to the Biden administration. When it come into Pennsylvania, went red. Man, that CB radio, I haven't heard it that ecstatic in a while. Like, it was great.
Those are actual voters in swing states. Those are actual voters in swing states. Stephanie Ruhle says it's misinformation from Twitter that caused the country to go to Donald Trump. No, the problem here is that the media is obsessed with Twitter. Less than 20 million Americans are on Twitter, and fewer than that use it regularly. They're feeling it in their own lives. So compare Stephanie Ruhle that it's misinformation, the economy's actually doing great, with this conversation on Morning Joe this morning. Now, I want to say something about Joe Scarborough. He's a friend. He's annoyed with me, I'll put it to you that way. I've known him for a very long time. We agree on a whole lot less than we used to these days. But I want you to hear this and understand he's not that clueless. He's doing a shtick to make a point to the progressives who are watching his show this morning.
I want to talk about economy for a second. A few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, somebody who was going to be voting for Kamala Harris came up to me and said, "Oh my God, Trump's going to win." I go, "Why is that?" He goes, I went to the grocery store. Butter's over $3. I kind of laughed and I said, "Well, that's kind of reductive, isn't it?" Said it to myself. To him, I smiled and I said, "Good point." But it actually, everything we're hearing after the election is,
I'm just saying, the $7.
What's that?
The $7.
What's that? Butter is $7?
Yeah.
What?
Some
Is
places.
it framed in gold?
Yeah, what
okay.
kind of butter?
Anyway.
Depends on where you go. But
Okay, well, yeah, okay.
$7.
Well, anyway, my point is this, Willie. The rent is too damn high, and this guy was saying the cost of butter is way damn too high.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was a bit reductive. It ended up being just the point that if you look at the cost of groceries, if you look at the cost of gas, if you look at the cost of things compared to 4 years ago, it was a very simple answer for working class Americans. Things just cost too much.
Okay, now my frustration with this is that for a year or two now on his same show, these very same people have been telling Americans actually the economy's doing great. Actually, you don't understand how good it is.
Yeah,
we have
no
it better
question about it.
elsewhere. We got it better than everybody else. And now they're like, oh my God, the cost of butter is $7 for a box of 4 sticks of butter? Are you kidding me? Well, of course people are going to vote out. Well, duh, that's what we've been saying for 4 years. That's literally been the argument. Again, on my program, on October 15th of this year, I said Trump was going to win because when people look at prices, they say they're too high, and they weren't when he was president, and that mattered more than anything else. How out to lunch these people are. How mendacious they've been to us. For 4 years, they've told us everything was fine, and now they're like, yeah, actually, butter was too high. Of course, people were going to vote against Joe Biden. But there's something else happening here, too. There's something else happening in the conversation. They're missing a point. It wasn't just because groceries were too high. It was also because the Democrats have gone nuts. And when you're all insane, you don't realize you're insane. You surround yourself with a bunch of insane people. The sane people are the ones who seem crazy. And the Democrats surrounded themselves with people who thought boys should be in girls' sports. Bill Clinton was out there telling them, this issue is hurting you. This issue is hurting you. You need to avoid this issue. You need to bail, wave off. And they couldn't do it. They could not do it. Bill Clinton tried to give them good advice, and they resisted. This is one of the quotes. Democrats struggled to respond. Let me just back this up. How Trump Won and Harris Lost from the New York Times. The ad with its vivid tagline, Kamala's for they, them, President Trump is for you, broke through in Mr. Trump's testing to an extent that stunned his aides. The Charlemagne ad ranked as one of the Trump team's most effective 30-second spots. According to an analysis by Future Forward, Mrs. Harris's leading super PAC, it shifted the race 2.7 points in Mr. Trump's favor after viewers watched it. The anti-trans ad cut to the core of the Trump argument that Ms. Harris was dangerously liberal, the exact vulnerability her team was most worried about. The ads were effective with black and Latino men, according to the Trump team, but also with moderate suburban white women who might be concerned about transgender athletes in girls' sports. Democrats struggled to respond. At one point, former President Bill Clinton told an associate, "We have to answer it and say we don't do it." Clinton even raised the issue in a conversation with the campaign and was told the Trump ads were not necessarily having an impact, according to people familiar with the conversations. And I can tell you that's a damn lie, because the Harris campaign team themselves told me they knew that ad was having an impact, but it would alienate them from their donors. That's right. Privately, the Harris team knew the ad was having a problem, but it would alienate them from their donors, and they needed the money. And they did nothing. That's from the New York Times reporting. The Politico reporting today is that if Joe Biden had been running and not Kamala Harris, that his gut told him he needed to make sure people knew he did not enact regulations progressives had proposed that would have put boys in girls' sports, and instead was going to protect girls' sports from boys. That's Joe Biden's team saying Joe Biden would do that. They're throwing each other under the bus. It gets better and better and better. I'll take your phone calls when we come back, 877-973-7425. First, I need to tell you the Eden Pure Thunderstorm, that I really am a big fan of the product. Listen, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't sure about it until they wanted to advertise a couple years ago on the program. They sent me one, and it saved me with a rental car where someone had smoked in the rental car, and it was gross. I was like, yeah, this product works. I want to advertise for them. They've now updated the product. It was always small. Now it's even smaller. And now it generates plasma, not just ozone. So it wipes out. It literally will kill bacteria and viruses, not just wipe out odors. And it gets rid of the pet dander, the pollen, the dust, everything in the air with electrostatic plates. It works. You can get 3 of them. You can save $200. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3. So it's a small air purifier. You can plug it in with a USB cord. You can plug it into the wall. It's got a little plug that flips down out of it. And it just kills odors and bacteria and viruses, and it just works. I keep one in my travel bag. I actually don't have it in my travel bag now. I left it at home. I knew where I was going. I wasn't going to have a problem on this Tulsa trip. Normally, I would keep it in my travel bag. And they're just great. You get 3 of them. You save $200. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. You want a sense of what's happening out there with the election of Donald Trump? Steve Madden, which makes shoes, I think, is announcing they're cutting their manufacturing in China. Hamas is now asking for an end to war in the Middle East, and Vladimir Putin is saying he's ready to work towards peace in Ukraine. Funny how that works. Also, the Dow went up. Remember, they said if Donald Trump got elected, the Dow would crash. The experts said the Dow would crash if Donald Trump were elected, and that did not happen. Also, I do have to say something sad. Charlie, if you're listening, I need Charlie to listen. Charlie's friends, text Charlie and tell Charlie I need him listening before I say this. He's literally sitting. I'm looking at him right now. We're in the same room. What is that finger you have raised in the air? What is that? Wow. I gotta correct her. Sadly, it doesn't now look like Sam Brown is going to win in Nevada. Yesterday, all the prognosticators said he was over the edge, but absentee ballots are still coming in, and they're counting them, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to pull it off. Now, that's not stealing, just so y'all understand that these are the votes. Nevada is one of those states that continues to count votes that come in by mail as long as they're postmarked on Election Day. There are Republican monitors. The Republicans aren't disputing their legal ballots. But Dave McCormick is going to win in Pennsylvania. They haven't called it yet, but there are not enough outstanding ballots in Pennsylvania. All right, let me squeeze in a phone call here real quick. I want to go to James. You're going to be up next. Welcome.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Excellent. I posted a bit to my Facebook page. Also sent you a copy of the post. And 3 times since World War II, the Republicans have controlled both the White House and both houses of Congress. It's important for the next 2 years that we don't blow this mandate that we have from the American public. And I have some ideas about what are the most important things, but I'd like to get your take. My feeling is that BRICS, stopping that, and the unit that they want to use to replace the U.S. dollar for our trading in petroleum, basically, and other trade goods. BRICS is one of my top priorities, but I'd like to get your take.
Yeah,
what do you think we ought to do in the next 2 years?
I do think over the next 2 years there are a couple of things. One, make sure the dollar remains the reserve currency on the planet. And also beyond that, we've got to immediately use the reconciliation package to extend the Trump tax cuts. And then 3, use the reconciliation package to cut government. We have got to start axing bureaucrats in the federal government, because that's what Democrats are fighting over when they say that Trump's going to be an authoritarian. They want to control the bureaucracy. We need to end the powers of the federal government tomorrow. Every single priority of Republicans must be to cut the size and scope of the federal government over the next 2 years, so that when Democrats come back into power, which they inevitably will, they're not going to have that power base there to wage war on the American people. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. Wherever you are nationwide, if you're buying a business, building a building, you need a heavy equipment loan, you got great credit, First Liberty, they can move fast if you've got really good credit. But even if you don't, reach out to them and see. They might be able to work with you. They make their own decisions, and they have since the 1990s, and it's the same people. You don't have this banker turnover there. They're great people. The Frost family have been doing this for a long time. They'd love to help you. Reach out to them, firstlibertyga.com. Anybody nationwide for your business, firstlibertyga.com. When we come back, well, I want to talk about Chris LaCivita, the campaign manager for Donald Trump, and, well, his Tony Soprano post today.